Hello everyone, Dividend Enjoyer here, and today I'm going to be doing a stock analysis video on American Tower Corp, ticker symbol AMT. Stock currently trades for $189.93. Over the past year, the stock is down 6.91%. The market cap of American Tower Corp is $88.75 billion. The price to earnings ratio is 80.04, which seems on the higher end, and the annual dividend yield for the stock is 3.41%. American Tower Corporation is a real estate investment trust, or a REIT, that owns and operates a portfolio of telecommunications infrastructure, primarily cell towers, and their business model revolves around leasing space on these towers to wireless service providers and other entities. So essentially, they build the towers and then they rent them out to like your AT&Ts and your Verizons and your other, um, you know, places that would like to rent cell tower usage. So that's their whole business model. They build a tower, and then they get AT&T or these other people to essentially pay them some sort of rent to use it. And it's pretty steady. They've been making consistent money. The only real risk to this company is if you're worried that cell phones are going to be phased out or if we're not going to use cell towers anymore, which seems very unlikely to me, but again, let me know what you guys think in your own opinion. However, I will say because this is such a simple company and there's not like some kind of hidden growth that I'm not seeing anywhere, um, if our DCF shows that it's undervalued, then it's probably undervalued. And if our DCF shows that it's overvalued, it's probably overvalued, because it's not really gonna surprise either way usually. And I think that this company is just very stable, very good. It's a good type of company to have in your portfolio if you're looking for a stock that's, um, resilient to economic downtrends or anything like that. It's recession proof. It's a company that's basically going to make what it's going to make pretty consistently, in my opinion. Here we have the current analyst ratings for American Tower Corporation. As you can see, out of 22 analyst ratings, 7 rate it a strong buy, 9 rate it a buy, and 6 rate it a hold. The analyst price targets range from anywhere between $210 to $255 in the next year, with the average 1-year analyst price target of $232.05. The stock is currently trading for $189.93. And that's pretty much all we have to say for the analyst ratings. We also have the dividend compound annual growth rate. So if you don't know, this is how much American Tower on average raises their dividend per year. So like the dividend 3-year compound annual growth rate is 7.54%. That means for the past 3 years, they have raised the dividend on average 7.54% per year. So that 5-year compound annual growth rate is 11.38%. That means they've increased the dividend on average 11.38% a year. And the 10-year compound annual growth rate is 16.56%, meaning that on average over the last 10 years, they have raised that dividend 16.56%. Here's my weighted average cost of capital I got for American Tower. I used the cost of debt, which I got a total cost of debt after tax of 2.583%. And then I got a cost of equity of 6.646% using the risk-free rate as the 10-year yield, the beta of the stock at 0.84, and then an average market return of 7%. I think this is pretty conservative. I think you probably could use an average market return of 10%, but I think 7's more standard of what people use. And then I did the weight of both. So American Tower is pretty heavily debt weighted. The market cap is here, and then the total debt they have is here. That's 34.7% of that total. And that comes out to a weighted average cost of capital, like I said, of 5.24%. DCF model valuation for American Tower. Currently, I think that the stock has a 3% constant growth rate baked into it because at 3%, I have a DCF per share value of $184.34, and the stock price is at $189.93. The average growth rate is 14.01%, but I do not think that's sustainable. I think you're more likely going to have years like from 2021 to 2022 where there's a huge dip and then growth and then a huge dip and then your floor expands as well as your ceiling. You just get kind of weird cash flows. I'm guessing that 2021 was like the COVID time, and there was more of a demand for um, cell tower, I guess, usage. That would make sense in my head. Just looking at it, could be something completely different. Um, but a 4% growth rate, and you have a 9.05% upside, and the DCF per share value of the stock's 207.12. So my determination is that if you're a long-term investor, I would probably look at American Tower because this is a likely scenario. You could even be getting 5%, but it might take a long time to materialize and really kind of settle down. But if you are, a long-term investor that believes in the future of cell towers, then I think American Tower would be a good buy for you, especially with that dividend compound annual growth rate in the 10-year that we talked about earlier, as well as the 5 and 3 year. I mean, this company raises the dividend pretty consistently at pretty high levels, so you're going to be beating inflation with that dividend income. The only concern I have for American Tower is future growth. I think it's going to be hard for them to continue to grow their free cash flow because they're just going to build towers every single place that they can. And then it's going to become like an annuity, or they're going to be like a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi or something like that. I also personally, I understand that they have to have this, but I don't like it with the current rates, is the amount of debt that they have. I'm never a big fan of companies with a lot of debt. I also think that the product they make isn't monopolistic in any way. It's kind of homogenous, I mean, like one cell tower isn't consumers aren't going to have a preference from one cell tower to another. It's whichever one gives them the best signal. And for those reasons, just fundamentally as a company, I don't think I would want to own American Tower. But the valuation looks pretty good. And like I said before, I think whatever the company's DCF fair model valuation that you think the growth rate should be. So if you think it's going to grow this cash flow on average 5% a year for the next 9 years, you know, you have to do your own research. But obviously, I would think that the stock is undervalued at that point. Um, Whereas if you think it's only going to grow at 2%, then you're going to see a downside of 14%. And it's also a red flag that the stock is down 6.91% over the last year. But I think that the stock has probably been a little bit oversold. I think there's definitely some value still there, but it's not an industry that I'd want to own. And I'm not a super expert on this kind of stuff. And I think there are a lot better opportunities in other places personally, but I wouldn't fault you for buying the stock. I think that it might have fallen far enough that it probably has more value than what's being reflected in the current stock price. So overall, I would not fault you if you bought this. I'm not telling anyone to buy this. This isn't financial advice. But I wouldn't fault you if you bought this or if you just didn't want to touch this. I'm probably not going to be adding this to my own portfolio. I think it's an interesting stock, but I have enough stocks that are just there for economic downtrends and that have reliable dividends. So, yeah, that's my review of American Tower. Please like the video if you like the video. Please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. And have a great rest of your day. Bye.